Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise and really pull out the core insights from important sources. Today we're doing a truly compelling dive into ancient wisdom specifically, a collection of, well, profound virtues and principles drawn from foundational biblical texts. Our mission, it's to unpack these timeless qualities, not as, abstract ideals, but as surprisingly actionable principles. They offer a kind of powerful shortcut, maybe, to understanding what it means to live a deeply rich and meaningful life. And what I find really compelling is how practical this framework is.
It's fascinating, isn't it? This deep dive is really a journey into how these virtues are not only interconnected, but also incredibly consistent within this tradition. They offer a robust guide for character, for conduct, that remains remarkably relevant today. A guide for anyone really seeking to understand what it means to live well.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We can start with the well-known 9 fruits of the Spirit from Galatians. Love, joy, peace.
Patience, kindness, goodness.
Faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Right. And the text famously says, there is no law against such things.
Yeah.
Now that seems simple, but what's the deeper significance there? Calling them fruits, saying no law applies.
That's a great question. Calling them fruits, it implies they're the natural, sort of spontaneous outcome of a certain way of living, a certain mindset, not rigid rules you force yourself into. And no law against such things. Well, in Galatians, that's pretty significant. Paul is contrasting this natural expression with a strict adherence to legalistic rules. It suggests these virtues, they kind of transcend any human-made law. They're just universally good. And you can see how they feed each other, right? Like patience, it underpins so many of the others.
Absolutely. They're not isolated things.
Yeah.
And speaking of feeding each other, let's really zero in on love. Because, wow, the definition in 1 Corinthians 13 is just so incredibly rich. What's really insightful there isn't just, the beauty of the language, but its absolute practicality. It's almost like a behavioral checklist. Precisely. It describes love not just as a feeling, but as being patient, being kind, not envious, not boastful, not proud, rude, self-seeking, not easily angered, doesn't keep a record of wrongs, doesn't delight in evil but rejoices with the truth, and then always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. What's kind of revolutionary there is it gives you tangible actions, things to cultivate. It makes love something you do, not just something you feel.
That is a remarkably precise description, really highlights the active side of virtue. And we see this echoed maybe even more explicitly in Ephesians 4.32. It tells us to be kind, compassionate, and to forgive each other. That really underscores the interpersonal dimension, doesn't it? How these play out between people.
Right. And this raises that important question. How do these deep-seated virtues actually translate into our daily actions? Micah 6.8 gives us this powerful, concise summary. It's about acting justly, loving mercy, and walking humbly. See, these aren't just internal states. They're active postures, attitudes towards others, and yes, towards the divine. It's a call to embody them constantly.
Okay, so if that's the summary, where do we find a kind of real-world blueprint? How does this actually look? We see incredibly detailed examples in the book of Job, chapter 31. It paints this picture of a person who avoids adultery, doesn't despise or abandon the weak, doesn't oppress them, doesn't trust in money, rejects idol worship, and this one is striking, doesn't rejoice in an enemy's calamity.
Yes.
He cares for the vulnerable, feeds the hungry, clothes the naked, is hospitable to strangers.
And what's so powerful there is the common thread, right? From the internal fruits all the way to Job's very concrete actions.
Yeah.
These virtues are less about grand, infrequent gestures and more about consistent, often quiet, daily choices. Choices that collectively define a character of, well, profound integrity. Think about Job not rejoicing in an enemy's trouble. I mean, in today's often polarized world, that's not just some historical ideal. It's about resisting that urge to celebrate when a competitor fails, maybe, or fueling gossip about someone's misfortune. That immediate, almost subconscious impulse we sometimes feel.
That brings it right into our lives, yeah. And the ultimate example often presented for these virtues, that's in the life of Christ, right? Described in 1 Peter 2. He committed no sin, had no deceit, didn't retaliate when insulted, didn't threaten when suffering, but entrusted himself to God, taking on suffering for others.
Mm-hmm. It really shows the depth of self-sacrifice involved.
Yeah.
That unwavering commitment to these principles, even under, extreme duress.
So pulling this all together, what does this mean for you listening? This deep dive has shown us that whether we look at the internal fruits of the Spirit, or the active definition of love, or the call to act justly and mercifully, or those practical life examples from Job and Christ, these aren't just ancient concepts. They form a powerful, coherent framework for living a life of profound integrity and positive impact. Maybe even a shortcut to living well.
Exactly. And consider this maybe as a final thought.
In a world that's often driven by, let's face it, immediate gratification and self-interest, how might intentionally cultivating even more of these ancient virtues, maybe patience in traffic, maybe kindness to a challenging colleague, maybe just a moment of genuine self-control, how might that transform your daily interactions, your relationships, and ultimately maybe even your sense of purpose? Something to think about.